Hello and welcome to the Sound of Seattle podcast, your one-stop shop for all things Seattle and Washington sports. I'm your host, Tyler Cartwright, joined as always by my co-host,
John Carey.
And we are here today smack talking each other as we always do before the pod, coming in hot. We've got a lovely pod for y'all. We're going to talk some Seahawks. Obviously, last week's win against the Cardinals was huge. They've got a big game against the Packers. Little college football, little college basketball, value dogs, obviously, little Kraken, and then we've got some Mariners discussion. It's finally time. It's the middle of December, and I know it's what the people want. The winter meetings are going on, and the Mariners have not made a signing. Let's talk about that. John, anything to say before we get started?
Bad friend, bad co-host. I wish this was with somebody else right now. Let's go. Let's record.
All right, here's some Coyote Picnic. All right, John. Let's start it off. Seahawks win against the Cardinals on Sunday, 30-18. Quite the matchup, quite the game. Really a dominant game. Cardinals get a late touchdown to really I get kind of a garbage time touchdown. They get the touchdown and two-pointer with in the third quarter to bring it close, and the Seahawks can just kind of put it away in the fourth. How did you feel coming out of that game?
Good. It was essentially what the Hawks were looking for. It was a defensive victory. They held the Cardinals to just 2 touchdowns. And they were very efficient offensively. They were consistently moving the ball up and down the field. It wasn't a touchdown bonanza by any means. They had 1 through the air and 2 on the ground, courtesy of Zach Charbonnet, who I'm sure we'll talk about more. But really, it was just efficient offense, and they were consistently getting into Cardinals territory and putting points up on the board. 17-7 first quarter is really, kind of what opened this thing up for them, and they just controlled the ball from there.
Yeah, huge first quarter there. I think both interceptions came in the first, if not the first and early second. So Ernest Jones continuing to have a major impact for this Seahawks defense in a real way. Comes up with the first interception, and then Kobe Bryant gets the second one. So a really big couple stands, I guess, by the Seahawks defense there. And then Geno Smith, 24 for 30 on the day, 233 yards and a touchdown. That is the Geno Smith that we always ask for. I feel like you and I have talked through the offseason, through every single week, and it's like, what does Geno Smith do well? And it's like high completion percentage and gets a touchdown and just moves the ball. So this was the quintessential Geno Smith game. And obviously it showed. Scored 30 points. We talked about they needed to score more than 20, and technically they didn't, but they still were able to get 30 points in this game. So a huge one, and I guess we can dive into the Zach Charbonnet of it all if you want to.
Sure, yeah, just one other thing on the first quarter of all, because we kind of might have buried the lead there a tiny bit. This game started with a really nice drive by the Cardinals, capitalized by a 41-yard touchdown to Michael Wilson. They were up 7-0.
Yeah.
All 17 of our first quarter points came in the last 4:45 of the first quarter. And yeah, that was defense leading to offense. Our first drive, it was a nice long drive, 13-play drive, capitalized by a field goal. But, it was a little disappointing. We were down 7-3. Cardinals looked really strong. What do we do right away? Pick, touchdown, up 10-7. And yeah, it all moved from that moment. So, good call, pointing really towards the defense. The offense did what they needed to do, but the defense is what kicked this game off. And yeah, we went from there. So yeah, let's talk about the offensive star of the day. There's no doubt about it. Our boy, second or third year back, it's hard to keep track, out of UCLA, Zachary Charbonnet. 22 carries for 134 yards and 2 touchdowns, including a beautiful 51-yarder. What really stood out about his game today?
What it was he was just like, it was the chunk plays. He gets the beautiful 51-yarder, all that good stuff, but he kind of looked like a Kyron Williams out there a little bit. Like, I was watching him, and he was just able to fall forward. He would get 2 yards and fall forward for 4 or 5. Like, it was just consistent chunk plays. And I think part of that comes from this line really performing. Geno Smith not getting sacked as well. That's huge for this offense and not, falling behind. So yeah, Zach Charbonnet, 22 carries for 134 yards. That's good. That's really nice. That's coming up on 6 yards a carry, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, over 6 yards a carry. And Kenny McIntosh, our third string running back, 7 for 38. He was at 5.5 yards a carry. So we were really effective on the ground against this Cardinal front.
Yeah, I think it was just one of those days where it was just like everything was kind of going exactly how the offense wanted it to go. Charbonnet also has 7 receptions for 59 yards. And they were just efficient, like we've said. DK 4 receptions for 49 yards. Not his best day, but still good. Still able to help on those like longer third down plays, things like that. And then JSN continuing to show how he's becoming kind of this number one receiver for this Seahawks team. 5 for 82 and a touchdown. They're really rounding into form, and it makes me very excited to just kind of keep pace with.
Yeah, huge win. We talked about it a lot, how big this one was. What this really did is it put the Cardinals to bed. We are now not only 2 games ahead of them in the standings, but we've got a double tiebreaker against them. So, pull the thermometer. Cardinals are cooked. We put them down. Love to see it. That leaves really one team standing that can challenge this Hawks team for the NFC West title, and that is the Los Angeles Rams. Part of the reason we're coming to you a little late tonight is we wanted to wait to see the finish of Rams 49ers. It was an absolute stinker. We don't have to talk about it a long time, but
awful game.
It was, awful. I think what did it finish? 12-6. Whoa,
yep. No touchdowns. Yeah,
all field goals, pouring rain. Hopefully, you don't have Cooper Kupp starting on your fantasy team like I did, because he had a big old goose egg, despite playing basically every snap. So it was a stinky game. But what that does is it means the Rams are 8-6. 1 game back from the Seahawks for tied in the division lead. And the wild card situation is still to be avoided if it can be. This is not we'll just finish second and take the wild card. This is going to be a fight for the NFC West crown, because I'm not sure another team's making it. So that's going to be the big matchup, and some really big NFC North games coming up here against the Vikings and Green Bay, but all eyes are suddenly turning to that January 5th game against the Rams. That might be what settles it right there.
That's exactly what I'm looking at right now. This Rams team, 8-6, and the rest of their season, they've got Jets, Cardinals, and then they play us on the 5th. So it's going to be a tough stretch. They have a bye next week, the Rams do. So they're a game ahead of us in terms of games played right now. Or no, they don't have a bye. I'm dumb. It's Thursday. This is week 15 for them.
You're an idiot.
But so they've got Jets and Cardinals, and then us, and we've got, is it Packers, Bears, Vikings? If I'm not mistaken.
Packers, Vikings, Bears.
Yeah, Jesus. That's going to be a tough stretch. Luckily, it looks like the Bears have fallen off a little bit, but it really is going to come down to that last week because the tiebreaker, I think the Rams beat us early on in the season, didn't they?
That is a great question. 26-20 in overtime.
That's what it was,
3rd.
yes.
Yeah, that was tough.
Yeah, so gonna be tough. But I think at 8-5, this week is really going to be the deciding factor. If we can win this week, then we're kind of playing such that we should be 2-1 the rest of the year. And if we don't, then we're in we have to beat the Vikings, which is going to be a tough game no matter what. I think we should beat the Bears at this point, but that Vikings game looms large if we are not able to beat this Packers team. We kind of have to beat one of the two.
Agreed. And that's the thing is Rams have a bit of a leg up in terms of ease of schedule. So getting one against these two teams is going to be big, and they're 2 excellent football teams. So nice to get an early playoff game in here against these NFC North foes. Just wanted to shout out Cooper Kupp, 11 receptions for 104 yards against us in overtime on November 3rd. Where was that tonight, Coop?
With all that being said, do you want to dive into this Packers game, or do you have anything else to say about this Cardinals game? I guess one more thing. The Seahawks had 9 penalties for 62 yards, so not their best week in terms of offensive, stability, I guess is what I'll call it. But they were still able to do what they needed to do, and they kind of regressed a little bit back into their false start habits. Their not offside. What is the encroachment? Kind of that kind of thing where they're little dinky 5-yard penalties that are just not very solid play. So a little tough to see. Yeah,
their defense still, that was a bit of a struggle, but they made big plays when it mattered. They limited explosive plays on the other side of the ball. Did a good job limiting Trey McBride and Marvin Harrison to only 119 yards combined between the two. So yeah, I was pleased with the defense. Obviously, we like it when they play clean, but I like it more when they're picking off Kyler Murray. So
yes, the turnover battle was definitely what swung the game, and I've just been watching the penalties ever since week 10
it's worth
or whatever
watching.
It was. Yeah, we've had to start watching it because the Seahawks, when they've been successful, is when they've been less penalized. So
they so often does tell the tale, but yeah, we'll take a +2 in the turnover margin.
Yep. All right, you want to dive into Packers?
Yeah, Packers have been excellent. They are. Do you have their record right in front of you? I'm just looking at their last couple of games.
Packers are 9-4 right now.
9-4, 2 losses. 2 of those 4 losses came to the Detroit Lions, who are obviously monstrous, including a 34-31 slugfest last Thursday night. So this is a Packers team that has a lot of rest. They haven't played since last Thursday. They're coming off a loss. I don't believe they've lost back-to-back games all season. And yeah, they're going to be motivated. I mean, the NFC North is not really on the table for them, but they have a chance of chasing down the Vikings for that number 2 spot. And like I said, the wild card in the NFC is bloody, and I think they would like to make things safe with a nice win for the Hawks. This is an important game for Green Bay as well. They're not going to just roll over in this one.
Yeah, I think this is a game that the Seahawks have to kind of hope that it's in Seattle. They have to kind of hope that the Seattle weather helps them out a little bit, gets a little rainy, and it gets into like a little bit of a I guess just a
those Wisconsin fans famously poor at handling
they like
weather.
the cold. They like the cold. They don't like the rain. They don't like the wetness. They want to make it messy.
If the tsunami hits, that might mess with Green Bay.
My thought is if it turns into like just a rushing bout, Josh Jacobs is probably just as good as Kenneth Walker, and we don't even know if Kenneth Walker is going to play. So as an offense, I think the Packers are equipped totally fine to handle the rain or any sort of weather that Seattle can throw at them. But hopefully we can limit their passing game if that ends up being the case. That's kind of my thought with the home advantage. Obviously, the crowd's going to be big. This is a big historic game. The Seahawks-Packers has kind of been was one of the bigger rivalries of the last decade, just with all the Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, all that, all those games that those two played against each other. That was a huge, huge set of like 3 or 4 games in the 20 teens. So it's gonna be a fun one, kind of a relive the past moment here for sure.
Yeah, it's just worth saying Kenneth Walker and Josh Jacobs are not close. Josh Jacobs is a lot better than Kenneth Walker.
Kenneth Walker hasn't played in like 3 games.
Well, yeah, Josh Jacobs is still one of the best 4 running backs in the NFL. The dude's a monster. Kenneth Walker has literally half the total yards that Josh Jacobs currently has.
I was giving Kenneth Walker the benefit of the doubt. We're Seahawks fans here, John. Come on.
I like to shoot straight. Do you know if Kenneth is he playing? Is he questionable?
He's questionable right now, so I don't know if I think he's expected to play, but we're not sure at the moment.
Yeah, worst case, Charbonnet hopefully can carry in some momentum. Yeah, this is going to be a tough game. This is the most balanced offense we've played since the Bills kind of beat us up a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, they're really effective on the ground. Josh Jacobs in this running game they're not only really good, they've been getting better throughout the season. They've been leaning more and more on that ground and pound game, and he's been very effective. 3 touchdowns last week for Josh Jacobs. And then, yeah, when Jordan Love steps back to throw the ball, he has just a plethora of weapons out there with Jaden Reed and Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs. Tucker Kraft at tight end. There are a lot of skill position weapons on this Green Bay team. So our defense against their offense is going to be, I think, where the lights are shining brightest. And then, yeah, they've got a really talented, deep all 3 levels defense as well. So it's going to be an elevated challenge compared to this Cardinals game. They're going to have to really bring it on the defensive end, and then Gino's going to have to play clean. He's going to have to play smart. And JSN and Charbonnet and whoever's carrying the ball for us is going to have to make some big plays.
Yeah, I think you really touched on it well. The Green Bay Packers offense going up against the Seahawks defense is going to be massive. And it's a question of, do we trust these Seahawks defensive backs against those receivers? Because we can turn this into what we did against Arizona, where Arizona was given the McBride angle. The tight end was able to go underneath, and they were able to take chunk plays. They just kind of never settled for those. And obviously, James Conner's pretty good. Josh Jacobs is quite the step up there, I think, either way. But those two weapons of Kraft and Jacobs are going to be pretty comparable, I think, when it comes to looking at this game, Cardinals and Packers relationships-wise. I think our defensive backs are going to take those wideouts away, and it's going to be a battle of kind of shorter game and whether the Packers are okay with taking that. That's how the Seahawks are able to reduce the scoring in these games. It's like you just have to take small chunk plays against them, and if the Packers are okay with that, it might turn into a little bit of a tough game for the Seahawks. But I think the defense is going to really have to step up, like you're saying.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I see that side of the ball, their offense against our defense being the more critical, and within that matchup, I'm looking more towards Josh Jacobs in this Green Bay offensive line against our D line and linebackers.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, our safeties and DBs, our corners and safeties, I should say, have been playing so good. Witherspoon and Love have been so dynamic out there that, Jordan Love, who's had kind of an up and down season, that's not what scares me. They're going to get some big plays, but I also see the potential for some mistakes. What I'm worried about is with their ability, we can't just stack the box against this Green Bay team.
No. With
that being said, will we be able to stymie this running game, or is Josh Jacobs going to carry the ball, 28 times? My prediction, it's, hot prediction coming in. If Jacobs carries the ball less than 20 times, we win the game. That means that they're not able to just consistently eat us up on the ground. It means they're being forced to put it in the air. And if they're being forced to put it in the air against Devin Witherspoon and Julian Love, we're winning the game.
Yeah, and I think, you can look at that and say, maybe the Seahawks do just kind of stack the box. Ernest Jones and our linebackers can really set up tight there and just set them on one-on-ones on the side. Julian Love as a safety is a really good roamer, and then Witherspoon as well as Reek Woolen actually had a really good game against the Cardinals last week. And Kobe Bryant, obviously, with the interception. Like, our DBs have been good enough in one-on-one situations. It's going to be a test. We can't, like, their third best receiver is probably Romeo Doubs, and that's a good receiver at the 3 spot. So to set up our third best DB is going to be quite the challenge, but I think that might be what the Seahawks end up doing. They just say, hey, Jordan Love, you either have to beat us in one-on-one, or you're going to have to check it down to your tight end, because we are not going to let you run Josh Jacobs up the middle for 6 yards a carry. Like, that might be what they do. They also might try and just make them run the ball. I think those are kind of the two ways to think about it. And so we'll see what the Seahawks defense decides to do. I think that's how they game plan. We don't know what they're going to try and do, but those are the two options that I think would work the best.
Totally. Yeah. It's going to be a unique challenge. We have not played very many dynamic running games this season. Broncos, no. Patriots, Dolphins, Lions were, we did a pretty good job against Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. They averaged about 4 yards per carry in that explosive Monday Night Football game. But yeah, other than that, probably James Cook on the Bills was, outside of Detroit, probably the best running back we've played so far this year. So this will be something new, and it will be important to see because, the NFC and then even more so the AFC has some really talented running backs that are going to be playing in the playoff. So you better come correct in terms of your interior line and your linebacker game. So this will be big for a lot of reasons. It'll be kind of a new test for this defense to have to focus more between the tackles and less too high.
The more I think about this game, the more I kind of feel like it could be a lot like that first Rams game where it was 26-20 in overtime. What we did was we really prevented Kyron Williams from getting going. Nakua ended up punching a guy and getting ejected, but as a spread offense, like Matthew Stafford was really able to spread the ball around, and they were able to get good chunk plays. But they forced it to overtime. Like the Seahawks made a lot of mistakes in that game and were able to force it to overtime. If they can do what they did against that Rams team to this Packers team, this could be a game where the Seahawks, score 24 and win 24-21. Like, it could be that type of game. The Packers, on the other hand, could just run away with it offensively. I don't think the Seahawks can keep up if it does become a shootout.
Agreed. That's not who this team is. Yeah, that first Rams game was a good example of, focusing and limiting the running game. Unfortunately, Stafford is a pro's pro, and he was able to get it done. But yeah, that game, 3 picks from Geno to, spoil JSN's 180-yard 2-touchdown game. That is your defense setting you up, and Geno failed to do what he needed to do there in terms of protecting the football. So if they can put together a similar game plan and execute similarly to the way they did against the Rams, that would be a good sign for how this game could go. But regardless, Sunday Night Football, 5:20 p.m., it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited. If they beat the Packers, they will win the NFC West. That's my...
Yeah, 100%.
Josh Jacobs is going to end the game with 18 carries. Hawks win. They win the West. It can all be wrapped up so simply.
Well, there's one of John's value dogs there for you.
I'd never spoil it.
All right, is that it? Is that it for this Packers game? Are you ready to move to value dogs?
That's all I have. Let's go.
All right, quick 21 minutes. You know how it is. It's what we do here. Let's get into some value dogs. John, last week, you, my friend, go 2-1. You are officially, I think it's 20-22 on the season. I just had to look at my notes. Sorry, 20-22 on the season. You are 2 games below 500, and the underdogs.
I thought you were going to say you crossed 500 for the first time.
No, you were a perfect week away. You were a perfect week away. Underdogs on the season are at 48.5%. I think you're right there. I think you're sitting pretty at around 48.5%.
Okay.
Last week, underdogs go 8-5. I went 1-2. So I am now 16-26. My Cowboys plus 5.5 against the Bengals was tough. Your Seahawks pick was right on the money. Good job by you.
You just got to remember the Venmo's John-Carry12. You can send that 20 whenever you feel ready.
That's his social. He's been not saying at the end of these segments.
Bro, if fans want to Venmo me, you can comment anything you want if you're sending me cash. I'll respond to anything. Send me a penny. I don't care. Yeah, no, it was a good week last week. Bears kind of screwed me a little bit. That was my one miss.
You and us both. I sent you that picture of them after the first half. It was like 300 yards to 4.
Yeah. The most disastrous half in Bears history. They actually had a decent second half, honestly, but not enough to cover the spread. That's funny. That Bears game was so bad, and it was the one I really remember standing on. I thought I went 1-2 this week. I didn't even realize I finished 2-1.
I was checking out because I had to write down and check what you went last week, and I was like, man, you were like, that Bears game is a lock, and I was like, you were like, if we could lock this, I would, and and I was like, Jesus, looking back at that,
we were talking about doing a new segment where we do let's do locks. It counts double. Glad we didn't decide to implement that last week.
Yes. Oh. Well, anyways, with that being said, we're coming in. I am down 4 games right now, four whole games. So we've got 3 weeks to make it up. We'll see how this one goes. You want first pick, or do you want me to take first pick?
I know what I want, so I'll let you go.
All right. I'm going to take, with my first pick of the Sound of Seattle Week 15 Value Dogs, Costco sponsor us, the Steelers plus 5.5 against the Eagles. I think this Steelers team is for real. I think this Eagles team is also for real. I think it's going to be a very just good game that's going to be settled by a field goal. 5.5 points is a lot. George Pickens might not be playing, but at the same time, it's like this Steelers team has done totally fine without him for the last couple weeks offensively, so I don't think that should change too much. And the Steelers defense is for real. I think this could go down as like a 28-24. Steelers still cover. Steelers could win. They're that good. So I'm excited for this one.
Yeah, I don't have the Eagles' schedule in front of me, but I'm quite confident that this Steelers team is the best defense this Eagles team will play all year.
Yeah.
I think they're in for a bit of a rude awakening. There's been a lot of, they're on this awesome 9-game win streak, the Eagles are, but there's been a lot of, rumblings from that locker room. And I think if they do not come very correct, they might run right into the mouth of a monster here, with TJ Watt and this excellent Steelers defense. They have not really allowed any running game to do much of anything to them. They limited Derrick Henry in a major way.
Was that a dog?
Sorry about that. Here, we can just pause for a sec.
No,
we're watching my parents' dog. They're out of town. They're out of Mexico. Joey, what's your deal, man? Come here.
I'm keeping this in the pod, by the way.
Yeah, this is important. Joey, come. Come here. Come here. Come here.
See, this is the YouTube content we've been needing.
Yeah.
There he is. There
Joey.
he is. The rare animal content.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a good fellow, this one.
What a lad.
You gonna be quiet?
Is he upset that you've been talking past his bedtime of 8:30?
No, I think some neighbors moved upstairs. Stay quiet, huh? We're recording content here, bro. Okay. Sorry about that.
No worries.
But yeah, this Steelers defense really limited Derrick Henry when they met. I expect a similar, treatment to Saquon Barkley, and I am not sure that Jalen Hurts is ready to dice up this secondary. So I think that's a great pick. I like the Steelers a lot. I'm going to let you have it, though. You've been so ice cold.
Look at you.
I don't want to put my hands on anything you're touching. Instead, I'm going to start my week by dropping a guarantee, a Charles Barkley guarantee. The Bears plus 6.5 against the Minnesota Vikings.
Jesus Christ. I've got this one too.
Oh, damn it. I was like, it couldn't possibly happen twice. No, I like this one a lot. Bears played awful last week. They played awful. I'm not going to beat around the bush. They had 3 yards of total offense at half.
Yeah.
They're not going to play that bad again. I truly don't believe they will. I think it was a weird game. They just fired their coach. It was not the emotional boost I think we thought it might be. But they got things going late. Caleb Williams had 2 late touchdowns to Rome Odunze, which our Washington fans love to hear. I still believe in this defense in particular and this offense's upside. 6.5 points is a lot of points. It's a division rival. These teams know each other. I do not expect a blowout. And I'm ready to be hurt again.
So 2 things. 1, the last time these 2 teams played, the spread was 3.5 points, and the Bears still covered. Granted, it was late game heroics by Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze to keep that one within 3 points, and I believe it went to overtime, if I'm not mistaken, or right up to overtime.
No, it did. It went to overtime, and they lost on a field goal in overtime.
Gotcha. Okay. And then the second thing is, John, this is the 7th time I think you've picked the Bears this season. I've got my notes all written down.
Let's go. See, this is the good stuff.
I think you're 3-3. I think this is the game that's going to decide whether you're 500 or not.
Last Bears pick of the year, baby. This is what I'm going to settle it right here.
So this is going to be a big week for you and me. I'm taking the Bears as well, plus 6.5. I know you don't want anything that I have, but I'm doing it. I have to. I can't stray from my gut.
Get your dirty hands off my Bears. No, I'll let you have it. Okay, do you want to give us your third? Do you want me to give my second?
You go for your second.
A little more drama that way. Gosh, I don't really want to. Shit. Yeah, I'll take the Hawks plus 2.5 against the Packers.
This is my other line.
No, god damn it.
It's okay. I'll swap. I have a 4th one if we need to.
Okay, so take a different one. You son of a bitch. No, you can have this one. I don't want to.
No. It's all good. It's all good.
Honestly, I'm not even in love with this line. I would like it a lot more.
There's a lot of not comfortable lines, I think, this week.
Yeah. But yeah, the main thing is I think our defense is better than the Packers, and we're at home, and it's going to be a bigger game for us than it is for them. I think the Hawks win. So 2.5 points. Give it to me.
Yeah, I like the Hawks in this game. I think it's going to be a fun one, but I will let you have it because I am going to take your Indianapolis Colts plus 4 at the Broncos. The Colts are still fighting for a playoff spot, as crazy as it is. They're 6-7 on the season. The Broncos, I believe, are 8-5. So a tough matchup, and the Colts have looked kind of better as of late, kind of worse, in different facets of their game. They've been unable to really get Jonathan Taylor going, it feels like, at least for the last little bit. I don't know. I haven't seen anything from him. And then Anthony Richardson has had, he's hot or cold every single week. So I like the plus 4 line. There's not a lot of lines that are above three points. And I like to take the above 3 points if you're going to take somebody as an underdog. Unless you think they're going to win, obviously. But above 3 points, and this game I feel like is going to be close. That's at the end of the day what I think this is going to be the one.
Yeah, these are two teams whose strength are their defenses. Whenever you have that type of matchup and you're getting more than 3 points, that's, I think, a really smart way to pick these. So I like that pick a lot. Colts have been playing a lot better late. Anthony Richardson has looked much better since retaking his job from Joe Flacco. And the Broncos are just completely enigmatic. Like, they will either dominate this game or they will lose horribly or it'll be close. And 2 out of those 3 options you win. So I think that's a perfectly reasonable line. 2 good defenses. It'll be interesting to see what Bo Nix can do to prove us wrong yet again. Okay, with my third and final pick, gosh, is it so crazy that I don't think either one of us are taking the Bills plus 2.5? Like, they might be the hottest team in football right now, but like, I just don't want anything to do with Detroit, man.
Dude, it might be crazier that there's a 16.5 point line and neither of us are taking it.
Yeah, Giants plus 16.
Giants plus 16.5 against the Ravens is crazy.
Well, the reason for that is this is a huge game for the Ravens. They need this win because their schedule's tough down the stretch. So they have to eat up on this Giants team. Great news for us Derrick Henry fantasy owners. We're hoping for a big show, but
hopefully he goes down, or not goes down, but comes out after the first half and they're up 20.
Agreed. That's what we're all hoping for. Also wish I could have taken the Rams plus 3 against the Niners. They obviously won tonight. I swear to God, I would have taken that line.
I was literally, as I was like getting everything set up for this earlier, I was like, I would love to take the Rams right now, but we can't.
Those are my 2 darlings of underdog fantasy all year. Bears, Rams. No more than 5 letters. That's what I'm talking about. Instead, I'm going to go a little off the beaten path. I'm going to take the New England Patriots plus 5.5 against the Arizona Cardinals.
Going with my old classic. I feel like I've picked the Patriots a lot this year.
They've been one of yours. They've been one of yours for sure. And that's part of the reason your record is what it is. But this is the week that the exception proves the rule. Their offense is looking better every week. Drake May, Bill Simmons is obsessed with him, so maybe he's another
the second coming.
Another Mac Jones, or maybe he's actually good. But their defense is really good. They're kind of one of those teams that's just a complete unknown, which kind of just makes them hard to like game plan for. It's part of the reason that the Panthers have been doing better in recent weeks is people are just like, oh, we got the Panthers, let's just show up, and then the Panthers play well. I think the Patriots can have a similar thing happen, and to your point, it's a lot of points. We've taken, of all the lines this week, we've taken 4 of the top 6 lines.
In terms of total points, yeah.
Yeah, in terms of points given. And I think that's the right way to do this. Nobody wants to bet on the Patriots, which means Vegas will make it so. Give me those 5.5.
Yes. Yeah, I think this week was a weird, just general lines week. I think Vegas is trying to still figure it out, like trying to figure out who's really playing for it, who's not really trying each week. Like, it's a tough one. I was going to say, the Panthers, if the Panthers were plus any points against the Cowboys, I would have taken them. Like, the Panthers have looked that good. Yeah,
especially
so the fact that they're minus 3 right now, that's both crazy and makes a lot of sense. But it's crazy that the Panthers, at the beginning of this season, we thought they were going to be 1-16.
Yeah. And we also thought the Cowboys might be good. Boy, were we wrong on both accounts. I think it's not crazy at all, because if I want nothing to do with the Cowboys plus 3. Like, no, thank you. That's my rancid dog of the week right there.
Shout out our boy Will. He's a Panthers fan. He's been having a great little turnaround for this season.
Let's go, Will. Love to hear it.
All right. With that, are we good on value dogs? That's it. Those are our picks for Week 15's value dogs.
If I have to talk about any more football, I'm going to throw up.
Well, we've got just the slightest bit. We've got about 2 minutes of football content, so maybe just unplug your earphones real quick.
I'll get a bag.
We just want to touch on the matchups coming up for UW and Wazoo in these bowl games. Not going to really get in depth on them. We just want to talk about them to say when they're up or when they're coming up, so that you can put them in your calendar if you don't already have them in, and make sure you're watching. So the first game for us is going to be Wazoo versus Syracuse, number 21 Syracuse, on December 27th. Syracuse ended the season pretty strong, and Wazoo did not. So this is kind of two teams diverging from where they were. And yeah, I think it's going to be a fun game. That is the DirecTV Holiday Bowl. Jean, anything to say about that one?
Love DirecTV, love holidays.
DirecTV really trying to stay around. DirecTV, they're losing the streaming battle for sure.
They're getting their ass kicked out there, but they're still fighting. I respect that. They got that dog in DirecTV. No, that'll be exciting. Really great to see Wazoo get a top 25 matchup. I think it's deserved. Their season's unraveled a little bit in recent weeks, but we can't forget this team got as high as 16 in the AP poll. So
we'll see. We'll see if that rank really counted for them. See if these teams that they were playing and beating, see if that mattered.
Yeah, and this is the realest test they've had since Boise State. So
for sure.
I hope that they can account well of themselves. And, always love playing the Orange, man. Good unis out there.
All right. And then the other game is on December 31st, New Year's Eve. Washington will be playing Louisville. Louisville finished the season 8-4, and Washington obviously 6-6. Not projected to win this game by any means at the moment, but it is the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl. It'll be down somewhere sunny, so Will Rogers will have one last hurrah, not in UW Stadium, which he will appreciate, I'm sure. Anything to say about this one?
Sun Bowl. Love the Sun Bowl. Big fan of the sun in general. Can't go without it. Big fan of El Paso, Texas. Girlfriends from El Paso. It means the pass in Spanish for those uninitiated. No, I don't. I haven't done any research on Louisville at all. We'll have a lot more to say about Louisville and Syracuse once we've actually looked at these teams in any real way. But for now, excited with these matchups.
You want to know what's crazy?
Louisville and Syracuse, are those both ACC teams, or is Louisville?
I believe so. I believe they're
Louisville
both ACC.
In the Big 12.
I think this Washington Louisville line opened at Louisville -4.5. It has moved to Louisville -2.5. People are putting money on the Huskies in this game, which is absolutely bonkers. Absolutely bonkers.
Remember, if you have a gambling addiction, to call a doctor. Talk to your parents.
Call the gambling hotline. Do something.
Yeah, don't.
It might
bet
be because
UW
Louisville's not going to
Louisville.
have players, but we'll see. Yeah. We'll talk about that when the time comes.
Possible. Yeah, they are both. We're playing the 4th and 5th best team in the ACC. Let's go Washington sports, baby.
Let's go. All right. Real quick, we're also going to talk some college stuff, so let's talk college basketball. John, the big thing to talk about this week is the Gonzaga Bulldogs. They just played Kentucky, went into overtime, lost by 1. What a big game. They do play UConn on Saturday, so that's going to be another big game. How you been feeling about your Bulldogs?
Been feeling okay. Yeah, obviously a frustrating stretch. Starting the season with huge wins over Baylor and San Diego State, and then in our last 4, we've got 2 losses to West Virginia and then a loss to Kentucky. I think the most frustrating thing, both losses in overtime, both losses easily could have been avoided. The West Virginia one was more of a true collapse where it's like they kind of threw that one away. The Kentucky one, it was more of a war of attrition where we just dominated them in the first half, 50-34 going into halftime. We were all having a good time getting drunk in the stands. It was a lot of fun. And then the second half, it did not by any means happen at once. This Kentucky team just chipped away Gonzaga over the course of the second half to get it to overtime. And then, took us an OT. Shout out to Kentucky. They're a good team. They played well defensively on the boards. They were really effective. This is a huge missed opportunity for the Zags. After being up 16 in the first half, they went on a stretch in the second half where they missed 15 straight wide open 3-point jump shots. During that same stretch, they went 4 of 9 at the free throw line, missing in that stretch the front end of 3 1-and-1s. To say that this team left points on the board in the second half, it was incredibly frustrating to watch. It didn't really affect Gonzaga's ranking. It looks like we've dropped to 8. We were at, I think, 5 at the time. And the reason for that is it was a 1-point loss in overtime to the number 5 team in the country. Yeah. Nobody's really holding it against the Zags, but I'm holding it against the Zags. It was very, very frustrating and not what we would look for from this team.
Yeah, the Zags you're talking about the Kentucky game in that one?
Correct.
Yeah, the Zags shoot 22% from 3 in that game and just really struggled to get it going. Kind of looked like my Huskies, to be quite honest. They looked like the Huskies, unable to shoot threes and unable to make free throws. So just that kind of day for them. Sums up Seattle basketball all in a nutshell right there. So it's probably because you were playing in Seattle. I would say that's probably what it was.
Yeah, it's also, Caliph had come down a little bit. At one point, Caliph battled Nolan Hickman and Ryan Nembhard were all shooting over 45% from three, maybe 6 games into the season. Last week coming in, Caliph was shooting 38. Hickman and Nembhard were both still about 45% from three. They were a combined 3 of 17 from three in this game.
Yeah.
Hickman, every single one of his was wide open off the catch and shoot. He was awful. He was really, really bad. We've had John Rosenberger on here. We've talked a lot about Nolan Hickman and my thoughts about him. This is the reason I can never like Nolan Hickman. Is like he'll put up 22 against West Virginia, but in these games, seems to always be what we get. 9 points, 1 assist, 2 rebounds, nothing. He was so bad. Our guard play in general was pretty bad. Nembhard was, at least 6 of 12 from the field, but couldn't get it going from three, turned it over too much. And then, the free throw thing was so frustrating. Ike was 9 of 14 from the free throw line, which doesn't seem that bad. 2 of those, 5 misses were front end to 1-on-1s. Dusty Stromer, our sweet shooting guard, who is like an 87% free throw shooter, missed the front end of a 1-on-1. I could talk about this shit all day. It was very, very frustrating. Shout out to Ben Gregg. Ben Gregg was awesome. Really played himself onto the court with his effort and energy. Ike finished with 28 and 11, but to be honest, I really wasn't that impressed. I thought he got way too much run, and Braden Huff didn't get nearly enough. Only 10 minutes and 2 points for Braden Huff, who's been kind of our generator off the bench. I think the fact that we didn't get more Greg Huff at the 4 or 5 is the reason we didn't win this game. I'm a little frustrated with Mark Few. But, am I rambling enough? It was very frustrating. We should have won this game.
Yeah, that's fair. I think the one thing about Huff, and I'll talk about this and then we can move on, I don't think he can keep up with like a super, super fast-paced game, which is why you don't see him in the blowouts as much. It's like,
sure,
that guy can only run so much. He's a 7-foot-tall, very, very lanky, slow guy.
That's fair.
So he works much better when teams are trying to play slow. But yeah, tough game, and I think this team just needs more time to settle in those crunch time minutes. Obviously the West Virginia one was a blow up. Nembhard, people were able to get going and make those free throws and missing late threes. It's like this team needs to be able to settle it down when the game is on the line, and they just need to prove that. They've got a lot of experienced guys on this team, but they just need to play together a little bit more and just get it going. Their starting 5 is 3 returning guys and then Ajayi and Battle at this point, so.
Totally.
It's gonna be a few more games before they can get it settled. So hopefully we see them pull it out against UConn and get back to where they were.
Yeah, UConn will be a fun game. UConn has not beaten a single ranked team. I think Baylor was still ranked when UConn beat them, but they no longer are. Baylor we beat by 40. They beat by 4. I'm not sure the status on Caravan, whether or not he's playing, but considering it's an 8-18 matchup, I'm really not as nervous as I maybe should be. I would love to give Hurley his 4th loss of the early season in Madison Square Garden. My brother's actually going to the game. That would
be sick.
Yeah, and I do think, this is a big game for the Zags just in terms of, they already have 2 losses. They lost one of their big 3 games they've played early in the season. I would really love to pick up this UConn win. It'll be their last big game essentially until UCLA in late December.
Yeah, this is a big one. We'll see where Gonzaga is able to go, but I think based on what I've seen, they should be able to win it. I think Kentucky plays fast and played with them, and I think Gonzaga should be able to outscore them.
Yeah, and just hit like a couple of threes, and it doesn't even matter.
Don't go 6 for 27. Yeah,
that makes sense. Just beat Kentucky. Or just hit your free throw, one or the other. Just don't do both.
All right, let's dive into my Washington Huskies because they were also a little frustrating. They lost to both of the California schools, to UCLA 69-58, and then to USC 85-61. USC dominated us. That score is not representative of that game at all. I think they were up 50-22, I think, at halftime or something like that. Like, USC dominated us in the first half. So that was very frustrating. UW is just struggling to figure out where their offense is going to come from when Great Osabor isn't able to do his, get the ball at the top of the key and then penetrate a little bit or find some guys cutting. Like, he wants to do these things and he just sometimes is unable to do them. And whether it's because it's a big man guarding him, a quick big man, it really stymies Great Osabor. He just doesn't have the speed. He's kind of like Nikola Jokic in that way. He's just like, he's slow and methodical, but he's not as skilled. And so he slows down a little too much sometimes. Eastern Washington, we were able to pull out the win. And then our next game is against Washington State here on next Wednesday, I believe. So we'll look forward to that one. I think the Huskies are going to be nice and below average, we'll say, in the Big Ten. I don't expect them to make any huge leaps this season. There might be a world where they're able to come out and turn it around in the Big Ten play, but as of right now, I am not very impressed with this team.
No, I'm not either. Osabor's been massively disappointing. One note, they've already played Eastern. That happened this Tuesday.
Oh, no, I know. I was talking about Washington State.
Oh, okay. I thought you said Eastern. Yeah, Washington State's coming up. Osabor's been really disappointing offensively. He's not been as dominant on the glass as we would have expected. Part of it is the guys around him, but part of it is this is not the guy we thought we were getting. And it's been frustrating to watch. This team is, if you think UW football had a rude awakening to Big Ten play, just wait till UW basketball gets underway. They are 7-3 right now, which puts them at 16th in the Big Ten, which I love. I just think that's hilarious when stuff like that happens. Also just speaks to people who play just such joke schedules. Like, how many times can you play Alcorn State in a season? It's just dumb. 7-3 is literally last in the 16-team Big Ten. It's tough. I agree with you. Maybe things can get turned around, but there is a stretch January 9th through January 24th where they play 5 ranked teams back to back to back to back to back. They play Michigan State, Michigan, Purdue, Oregon, UCLA, which is 21, 14, 11, 12, and 24. Under. We should do this right now. I'm going to give you a chance to win your money back. That you're going to owe me from this Value Dogs line. They play 5 ranked teams. Over under on 1. I'm setting the line at 1. 1's a push. Do you want to take over or under 1 win?
I would take under. I would take under in that one.
Yeah, you want to put $5
if I'm being real with myself.
Yeah. You think they lose 5 straight in that run?
Yeah, I do.
That's tough. That's tough, man.
I really don't have a lot of confidence in this team. And honestly, the problem is if you had set the line at like 0.5, I would take over. I would take the over. I think it's going to be 1 game.
Yeah, I think that seems very realistic to me.
So we'll see about that. One thing to note is Frank Kepnang still not back yet, still dealing with that. He had minor knee surgery, so he should be back, aiming for a January return. So hopefully he can get back, set this team right, because we need a bigger presence inside. Great Osabor is not a center. He's like a 6'8", 6'9" guy who is slow and just like not super dynamic, not great defensively. He's not big enough. Frank Kepnang is that guy. And so we've just been trying to piecemeal together that center spot, and it just has not happened. So it's been tough. It's been tough for our guys.
Agreed.
All right. Moving on from Washington Huskies, let's talk about the Washington State Cougars. They are currently 8-2, first in WCC play, according to ESPN. And they've been looking good. They beat Nevada and they beat Boise State, both away, both at Nevada and at Boise State. So a couple good games after their loss to SMU. Cougars look fine. They look decent. They haven't played anybody huge, but they look, but Nevada's not a bad team. They're a tournament team basically every year, and they were able to beat them. Like we said, 6 guys scoring in double digits every single game for them at the moment, and they're just doing what Wazoo's done, scoring about 80 points a game and limiting other teams offensively to like 70 points a game. It's just consistently what Wazoo's been able to do, and the Eastern Washington coach that came over has done a very good job with this roster so far.
Yep. They've been doing their job. Not a lot of high-level competition so far, but
Yes.
other than a slip up against SMU, they are on a nice streak here in their last 6. So it'll be interesting to see. Depending on how you feel about UW, they won't play another, real collegiate program until San Francisco on January 4th. And then, Gonzaga is pretty close on the heels after. So I think it'll be a while, unless they lose a couple of these next cupcakes over their next 5. I don't think we're really going to know who this team is until that San Francisco game. So they're in a tough spot where they can only be proven frauds over the next 5. Being proven for real will take some time.
Yeah, and I think basketball's, we can talk more about this at a later time, but basketball is just a game of variance right now so much that it's like you could lose any game right now.
Well, there's so much parity in the sport. Talk about a bad year to be number 1. I guess UConn was number 2 and lost 3 in a row, and then Kansas at number 1 lost twice in a row. So, yeah, Gonzaga is obviously at 8-2. There's a reason they've had 2 losses in their first 10 and are still ranked in the top 10. Nobody is successfully dominating every single game against high-level competition.
For sure. All right, let's jump real quick to the Kraken. We don't have a ton to say about them. They are currently 14-14-2, or for John, 14-16. I don't remember the last time we talked, but I believe it was while the Devils game was going on, or maybe it was the Hurricanes game. But they've basically gone 2-2 since the Hurricanes game, and not much to say. They're still a 500 team. They're still 6th in the Pacific Division, not really climbing at all. And my opinion has not changed. I think they're a very middling team, and I think the further along this season goes, the more that I'm proven right. I'm not seeing anything from the Kraken that are making me think that they're going to climb these rankings.
Yeah, I completely agree. They're really hitting their mediocre stride here. Yeah, the last we talked was after the Hurricanes win. Since then, they have won, lost, and are up 3-1 against the Bruins tonight. So they're just in a real 500 funk right now.
Yes. And
when they bust out of that one direction or the other, we'll have more to say about them. But yeah, it just hasn't been a super fun Kraken season. I think, coming out of 2022, we were both just so locked in on that Kraken playoff run. We were like, oh man, it's going to be so easy to avidly track the Kraken going forward. It hasn't. They have not been a very fun hockey team to watch. I would love to really get into them again, but I'm just not feeling very motivated to do so right now because they're just not very good.
It's very fair. And honestly, Boston's a pretty good team. If they're able to really solidify this win and get a few going, they've been competing against good teams, but
they just
at the end of the day, you have to win. Wow, yeah. Jesus.
You got to win.
For them right now.
Win consistently.
If they can just hold it out. And I think when it comes to hockey's like a sport that you go to and experience. It's not a game that you just throw on. It's not like watching basketball where you kind of keep track and go with the flow of the game. Hockey is a little more like baseball in that sense. At least it feels like for me. Like I'm not going to choose to watch the Kraken, but I would throw it on my TV if I had the game. But I don't have Root Sports, and so it's just tough to watch the Kraken sometimes. So kind of situations like that make it not as fun to watch and not as easy to watch for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you. Let's get into some more fun conversation.
Yes, it is time. John, it is officially, let's finish out the pod with something that I have been waiting to do. Let's talk Mariners. Let's talk baseball. Because the Mariners this week, I believe it was on Tuesday maybe, the MLB did their draft lottery. And the Mariners, at a 0.5% chance for this to happen, they ended up with the third pick in the first round. They have the third pick in the 2025 MLB draft. That is so exciting. This Mariners organization is an organization that has shown that they know how to draft well. I think they have 4 or 5 prospects in the top 100 right now. They know how to build them. We've seen this with their pitching development. Like our starting staff, our starting rotation is full of arms that we have developed from late draft picks. Imagine what we could do. We took two arms last year, so I'm not thinking that they're looking to take arms necessarily this year, early on at least. But we've been able to do that so well with the pitching, and I'm really hoping that they can get an offensive piece with this third pick in the draft. Do you have any thoughts about this before I dive into a little more detail?
massive, so exciting, absolute fleece. This is why I love like draft lottery things like this, where it's not, just strictly based on record, because every once in a while you get kind of a game breaking situation like this for a team as good as this Mariners team is. To get the number 3 pick in the draft is awesome. This is a very talented draft. People are in agreement. It's not, not mind melting or anything. It's not going to give them the rights to a Shohei Ohtani necessarily, but it's still a very talented class. To get put up into that top 3 is incredibly exciting. I think the most interesting aspect of it for me, and we'll talk about this, I'm sure, is there are 2 guys in this draft that I really, really like. And it looks like they might go 1 and 2. And after those 2 guys, it's looking like a lot of arms. It's like, man, I don't want an arm. I'm with you. I want a bat. And it looks like there are 2 bats. And if we can get either one of them, I would be very excited.
Yeah, so I think the first thing to do when we look at this setup is let's take a look at let's talk about where the Mariners are with relation to their competing window and where this player that they draft will fall into, whether it's this competing window or the next competing window or the one after that. Like if they're, I doubt this is going to happen, but if they get Ethan Holiday, this guy's 17, he's not going to be major league ready for another 2, 3, maybe 4 or 5 years. Like if he doesn't perform well in the minors, like this guy's young. Some of these guys are very young, 18-year-olds coming in. And they will take some time. And some of them are 3rd, 4th years in college and are, a year or 2 away from being ready to be at the MLB level. There's no real like Paul Skeens level arm where it's just like, oh, this guy, we picked him up first pick in the draft and then he's ready to go right in the middle of the season. Like that's not going to happen. That's a very rare one-off case. So where these guys are, I guess, is a question of like, do we think that in terms of, let's talk about this guy, Jace Laviolette, they're ranked number 2 in the MLB pipeline. He's an outfielder out of Texas A&M, 21 years old, pretty ready. He's been at Texas A&M for 3 years. He was a highly touted high school prospect and is now kind of coming around. But if we were to take him, for example, he would be with this class of like the Harry Fords, he might be even a little bit older than Colt Emerson, but like the Cole Youngs, like that class of player where he's a year or 2 away. Those guys are right on the cusp of being at the major league level. And that feels like where he would be. Or you go the other way and you take a much younger player. I think those are kind of the 2 options. Where do you want the Mariners to go with that?
It's tough to say. To be honest, I'm not going to hazard a guess because I'm just not really informed. I'm looking at a lot of these guys for the first time. I guess where do you see more of a need,
Yeah, I think if you're talking about where we see a need, the Mariners need some younger guys. Like they have this cream of the crop is, I guess, Colt Emerson. I think he's a younger guy. They picked him up out of high school. Like he's a guy that is very talented, but probably 3 or 4 years away. 2, maybe 3. I think 3 is a good number. And I think if we were to take, a guy like looking at Kason Cunningham, a high schooler out of Texas, he's a 18-year-old shortstop, but he's a little smaller. He just like projects as a little bit more of a consistent player, but he would be in that Colt Emerson class. And that is a position or an area of need when it comes to timeline.
Sure.
But if I was to pick up somebody, I think that this next window, like the Mariners are set to make trades and compete right now, but this next window of players is so good that if they were able to get a guy like Jace Laviolette or anybody who's like a young 20, we can maybe talk about Luis Castillo trades because that is something that's going around a lot right now too. But if they were to get a 20-year-old, some of these pitchers that you're talking about that are highly touted in terms of the prospect rankings, if they were to get one of those, they could bring them up and have them ready in a couple years and get them to the level of like a Bryce Miller, Brian Wu, and they would still be able to be in that rotation, in this rotation for years going forward. So I think that in terms of need, we would go younger, but in terms of what I desire, I would love to pick up a guy that's like right in that end of college, ready to go in a year or 2.
That's great. That makes a lot of sense to me. I don't pay close enough attention to the farm system to know, how's our class looking here in a couple of years? It's always interesting how the draft, feeds the farm, which feeds the team. And everyone pays attention to the draft, but people don't necessarily pay as close attention as they should to the farm. But, okay, so I'm going to give you a couple different situations here, and I want you to give me some answers. The first is, Ethan Holiday, Jace Laviolette, currently the top 2 prospects in the class. Say both of them fall. Say top 2 teams, Nationals and Angels, are going for pitchers. Between those 2 guys, who would you rather have on this team? Not based on timeline, just based on who you think is going to be a better pro.
Based between Ethan Holiday or Jace Laviolette, or the next 2, the Jamie Arnold or Tyler Bremner?
No, those 2.
You just said those 2. Give me 1 and 2 or 3 and 4.
Ethan and Jace.
All right, between those 2, I think what fits this team is probably the Jace Laviolette area, because he's like, we've got Randy Arozarena for 2 years. We've got, or maybe it's a year. It might be just this. No, it's 2 years.
It's 2.
I'm forgetting. It's 2 years through 2026. And we've got Victor Robles for another 2 years after his extension through 2026 as well. So this outfield is set up well to give Jace Laviolette time in the minors to basically be, he comes up quickly and can be that like maybe 4th outfielder in 2026, or a guy who can get his cup of coffee, and then in 2027 he's ready to go. In 2027 he's 23, 24, and he's good to play. I think that would be the perfect pick. I think Ethan Holiday he's a great guy, and if he's still sitting on the board at the 3rd pick, that probably means Laviolette's gone and one of the pitchers is gone. You should take Ethan Holiday. Like Ethan Holiday is potentially better than his brother, who just got Jackson Holiday just got a cup of coffee at the major league level for the Orioles, and who is expected to be one of the better players in baseball in a half decade.
He was Ethan the number 1 pick by the Orioles, right?
Yeah. And Ethan Holiday is going to be a great baseball player at the major league level.
I love that family shit, man. That stuff gets me going.
It's crazy.
If your brother was a number 1 overall pick and you're a top 3 prospect, like that is a lock of a lock.
That is generational wealth right there, if I ever seen it too. Jesus Christ, that Holiday family.
Those arms are generational wealth, I'll tell you what.
So yeah, I think if either of those guys are available at that number 3 spot, you're taking them no matter what. I think if an arm
the
goes...
2, you'd prefer Jace.
But I would prefer Jace purely based on where this Mariners team is with its farm system constructed the way that it is.
Yeah, 50 home runs in the last 2 years, that's always nice. This team's always hoping for a little bit of power, so that's a good
Additionally, a lefty bat coming out of right field, like this team hasn't had a really like strong lefty power bat since and I wouldn't even call him a power bat, but like Kyle Seager is kind of the guy who dominated that right field box for the last decade. And so to have somebody who's left-handed with a quick swing, can get the ball out to right field, like that is the area of power in that ballpark. We need a good lefty power hitter. This is the guy. This is the guy that could make that happen.
See, that's the shit I like. Now you're getting me fired up. Okay. Say both of them get taken in the top 2, which is, fairly likely. I don't want to talk about arms. We're skipping past the arms. Who is your sleeper sitting below these arms? Some of the guys I'm seeing are Kason Cunningham at Texas, Xavier Nayans at Mount Vernon, Eli Wiltis at shortstop for Fort Cobb Broxton. A couple of these next guys. Does anybody jump out to you as, we have the number 3 pick, but, there's nothing wrong with taking the number 8 prospect with the number 3 pick. Baseball is notoriously finicky, so it's not as cookie cutter as you see in a lot of professional sports. Who would you be comfortable reaching down for to skip past these arms and get a bat?
So a quick note on the arms. I know you don't want to talk about it. But a quick note needs to be said.
You can feed us.
At the time of this draft, we will know a lot about how the arms are going to shake out for the future, how they're shaking out right now. It's like the draft happens, I think, during the season, if I'm not mistaken, or right at in April. I don't remember exactly what day it is. But at that time, we'll know a lot about, whether we've traded Luis Castillo, if we're going to need a 5th arm, because Luis Castillo's got a deal for 2 more years. We'll know if we'll need an arm sooner rather than later, if we're going to need to piecemeal it together with a 5th starter for a couple years. And in that case, maybe the Mariners will feel like they need to draft an arm to boost their rotation like they have done. In that case, I see Tyler Bremner is a guy who reminds me a lot of just like the profile of right-handed pitcher that they've been able to be successful with, like the Bryce Miller type. So I see him as the guy that the Mariners would probably love to get. In terms of a guy that you have the 3rd pick, you want to take a swing on somebody. Where do we want to go with that? Kason Cunningham's a tough one. I think he's more of a hit tool guy. He's kind of a J.P. Crawford-esque player. He's got a 60 grade hit, 45 grade power. Obviously, he's fine defensively. He's going to be a shortstop for a while. He's young, athletic. small enough to play shortstop and get things done. If you get too big, you just got to move to third, just as a side note for you baseball heads. So Casey Cunningham is a guy who reminds me a lot of J.P. Crawford. I don't know that he's a third pick talent is sure. My concern there. I'm looking for a guy who's got a little bit more power, and I'm looking for kind of a lefty power bat. And when I look at that, I see Xavier Nayans coming out of high school in Mount Vernon, Washington. He's a guy who's currently committed to Oregon State, hit tool 50, currently scouts graded, hit tool 50, power 65. He's got a 45 run, 60 arm, fielding 50, and an overall grade of 55. He's just kind of the guy that we see. He's like a high school hitter, bats lefty, throws right, third baseman. Like, he's the kind of guy that the Mariners could build around for the future, for that like second level of farm class with the Colt Emersons of this class, or of this farm system. And I see him being like a guy, if you were going to drop down to, that would be my guy. Oops, sorry.
Okay, let's fucking go. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. He was the guy that I had identified. I was looking down, it's like, okay, if we don't get these top two, who would I want? So 1, Mount Vernon, check. 2, committed to Oregon State. Seattle guy, yep. Check. 3, 6'4" and throws a 94-mile-an-hour pitch. Let's go. Obviously, probably won't pitch at any other level. More of a power hitting guy, but Xavier Nayans is the guy that caught my eye. I didn't even realize he was a lefty. Yeah. That's a big old green flag. So that's very exciting. Obviously, especially this Mariners team who's done a great job developing talent, they will not draft just to, reach down and get somebody. They don't care that I don't necessarily want them to get another arm. So decent chance we get, Seth Hernandez or Tyler Bremer or one of them. But if we get past Ethan Holiday and Jace LaViolette, I would be putting a big old glass on Xavier Nayans because especially, here in Seattle, you need big and you need strong, and he is obviously very big and very strong.
Yeah, and so reading into the ballpark a little bit, like the wind comes from left field. Like that's just kind of what the opening in the stadium allows wind to come in. You need to be able to hit it. If you're going to be a right-handed hitter, you got to have pure like 65 grade power to hit that ball out, like a Randy Rosarena. Even Julio like struggles. Like we saw Eugenio a lot of times, like they would push the ball to right field to try and hit home runs, and they would struggle hitting it to center, or hitting home run to center. And so like I just love a strong, powerful lefty swing, and we haven't really seen that. I love like Robbie Cano was a great lefty hitter for the Mariners. Obviously Griffey like back in the day, but that was like recently. You think of Kyle Seager, like that was the guy, and he wasn't even that big, but he was able to produce power through that big old booty of his. And and they were able to get things going. So Cal Raleigh is, I guess, right now the lefty power hitter that this team has. Yeah. But to get another one in the outfield, no less, would be great for this team.
Very great. We are not allowed to talk about Xavier Nayans' potential booty and its ability to push the ball out of the park. He's still in high school. That is out of bounds. We live in the state. He's still in the state. It's best to not
talk too much about this man's booty.
Well, maybe once he's out at Oregon State, we can make it down to Corvallis and come back with a scouting report.
At that point, we would hope that he doesn't go to Corvallis. He's currently a senior in high school. Yeah, we would hope that he just doesn't make it out there, and we take him and put him in Arizona fall leagues or something. But
okay, is that how that would work? See, I'm learning a lot here. I guess I figured he would still go play a year or two at Oregon State, but be under control of the Mariners. They'd pull him out of that.
What happens is, they would pull him out if it's a high schooler coming out of high school. You take him, you put him in, your organization. You put him in Arizona leagues, Arizona fall leagues, and they play basically other high school kids that are in the farm systems, whether that's international signings or anything like that. They play them, and then they just kind of get development for a year, and then once the season rolls around, they jump into low A or whatever it is, whether that's going to Modesto or whatever, wherever the organization wants to put those guys. But they skip out if the teams pay them enough. They skip out on those college years, which can be big, but also it's about the money at that point. Like if you're paying a guy $3 million to come play for you right away, it's kind of worth it.
Yeah, agreed. Well, that'd be a bummer. And, we like rooting for Oregon State baseball here as a couple of former Beavs, but we like our Washington guys playing for Washington teams even more.
Yes. Yeah. So we'll see, but that would certainly be exciting. And that was it. That's all I had to get off on the Mariners. It had to happen because
That was good. That's big news, man. I love a draft fleece. That's always great.
Yeah, that's exciting. Kind of the opposite of what happened with the Storm trading away their two first-round picks this year. So exciting. We get to talk a little bit of prospects. That's going to be the first thing that comes around for a little bit for the Mariners. I think we should start talking trades probably next week. I think the winter meetings will still be underway. They're underway as we speak. So things are going to happen, and we will let you guys know and be reacting to those each week. But for now, John, anything else to say before we hop off?
Get me out of here.
All right. Well, for John Carey, I'm Tyler Cartwright. This has been the Sound Up Seattle podcast. If you enjoyed this episode of Sound Up Seattle, please feel free to give us a follow on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening. You can find Sound Up Seattle on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and John is just tilting the camera right at his chest. For some reason, he's revving. He didn't want to stand up. He just had to move the entire laptop.
That's correct.
You can find Sound Up Seattle on YouTube as well. We just passed 300 views on a video, John. I didn't even tell you that. We just got 300 views on our Seahawks video from last week.
Ooh.
Huge. We love it. We love the support, and we appreciate it a lot.
Costco, you know where to find us.
And yeah, so we post segments of these podcasts instead of the entire thing. If you ever want to listen to just Mariners discussion or just Seahawks, we've got all that stuff out there. Next up, you can find me at TyCard50 everywhere that's important. You can email us your questions, comments, or concerns at soundupseattle@gmail.com. You can find John
sinking with my fantasy team into the briny deep like I do every single year, going down with my ship like a true captain.
I'm 3-10 in our league. I don't know if I could do this for another year. That's 2 straight years of being bad.
He drafted his team under his girlfriend's ESPN account, and several times this year I've had buddies be like, man, I do not know who that Camille character is, but she sucks. And I'm like, that's Tyler.
Yeah, my team got decimated by injuries. I don't know, I had to reshuffle the team around. My running backs this week were Jalen Warren and Tyler Algiers. Those were my running backs this week.
Preseason, honestly, it's like, you can talk yourself into both of those guys, but no, that did not pan out.
Yeah, so that was a tough one for me. And AJ Brown and Cooper Kupp just were never that good this year. So
Preach.
It is what it is. I think that's it. With all that being said, let's go Hawks, baby. We're in that time.
Go Zags. Huge game. Let's go. Yes, yep, I'm all set.
Sweet, you should just make that face the entire pod.
Fuck you. I do as I please.
All right. You want to mute your phone? Jesus Christ.
I just did.